Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. I'm back. I'm still under the weather. I've been sick since May 7th. But anyway, it doesn't matter. We're here today. We're here with the miserable liberal and Ron Placone.
I'm miserable.
Howdy, howdy.
And we have, the horribleness that's been happening in Gaza, right? There's an open-air prison, Israeli occupation, and they're starting to protest against it. And so the way that Israel has responded to the Palestinians protesting against their having to live in an open-air prison is by shooting them with snipers. We've told you that. So that's how they're handling it. So it's, the most disgusting human rights violations, if you want to call out and out murdering people. And what kind of people are they murdering? Well, so there's been people going to give first aid to the wounded, right? So here's one of them.
أول شيء أهلا وسهلا فيكم. طبعا اسمي رزان النجار.
Razan al-najjar. That's how you say it. Razan al-najjar. So she's going to tell you what she's been doing.
هنا امبارح أول يوم كان لي من الساعة 7 الصبح للساعة 8 المساء. كانت مهمتي إسعاف المصابين داخل الحدود الشرقية لبلدة خزاعة. تم التعامل من قبلي مع 70 إصابة مطاطي وفي القدم. الحمد لله تم إسعافهم وإيصالهم إلى الطواقم الطبية.
So there she is. She's giving first aid to people being shot by rubber bullets, by real bullets, by other things, by Israeli soldiers during the protests. And she says she's been working from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. every night. I wish I had a better quality video of this. So what happened to her? Well, so she sounds like a pretty decent person. And you see what she's doing there. She has her white coat on and she has her hands up. So here's another picture of her with her hands up as she's going over to assist someone who's been injured. So she's a medic, got the white coat on, got her hands up, white gloves. And what did they do? They shot her in the chest and killed her. She had her hands up, white coat. And how did the New York Times cover it? A woman dedicated to saving lives loses hers in Gaza. She lost her life. No, she was murdered. So if a Palestinian would have shot a Israeli soldier in the chest and he had his hands up, the headline in the New York Times would not be "Soldier loses his life on the Gaza border." It would be "Terrorists kill soldier, murder soldier in cold blood." That would have been their headline.
Sniper shoots nurse.
Yeah, how about sniper shoots nurse? How about Israeli sniper shoots nurse? How about Israeli sniper? Well, how about this? So this is from George Galloway. He says, the war crime committed against Razan al-najjar has gone virtually unremarked among our political class and its hireling lickspittle media. Yet on my Twitter alone, more than 1 million people in not 36 hours have engaged with it. The mainstream media is a doomed, hollowed out shell. This is the future. So, I mean, if there's anybody, like I about a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, I went on a famous person's podcast who's a very nice gentleman, well-meaning and very funny, and a friend. And we got into a heated discussion, shouting match, about Syria. And, I get it. I understand that if you are a casual observer of the news, you would have thought that Saddam Hussein was Hitler and that he had weapons of mass destruction. You would have thought that. You would have also thought that Assad is a butcher that we have to go topple to save his own people from him. You wouldn't know that we actually started that war in Syria. The CIA funded terrorists to topple Assad, right? So when we don't like someone, we overthrow them like we did in Iran. We don't like democracies. Meaning, when I say we, I mean the intelligence community in the United States, the CIA, and our governments. So I understand. I went on a show and he was screaming at me that, we've got to help those people in Syria, which is exactly what the permanent state, the intelligence community, the CIA, and the military industrial complex wanted you to think. But every independent journalist has gone over there, has showed this is ridiculous. And now we know, from many, many different sources, that the United States, one of them being the Washington Post, is that the United States CIA funded terrorists to overthrow Assad. That's what this is all about. And of course, Professor Jeffrey Sachs went on MSNBC's Morning Joe Ball and leveled everybody, saying that we made this mess in Syria. So what I'm saying is, if you still think that what we're doing in Syria or Libya or Afghanistan or Iraq or Niger or Somalia or Yemen has anything to do with helping people because we care about people, well, this should disabuse you of those stupid notions, right? Mm-hmm. Stuff like this, just the out-and-out slaughter of people on the Gaza border by Israeli soldier snipers. Also, I'll give you this. This is from the Quds News Network, QUDS. No wonder that Palestinian paramedic Razan al-Najjar was killed by Israeli war criminals on the same day that Nikki Haley vetoed the UNSC draft resolution for international protection of people of Palestine. U.S. voted against a draft resolution in the UNSC, United Nations Security Council, calling for protection of Palestinian demonstrators in the Gaza Strip. She voted against it. So if you still have this idea that the United States pushes humanitarian agenda anywhere, what we push is a military-industrial complex agenda, bankers' agenda, and fossil fuel companies' agendas. And what do we use to push that agenda? Our military. So this should disabuse you of any of those ideas if you still think that. That's why I brought up that podcast I went on about a year ago. I would say 80% of the people who call themselves the resistance buy into the government's narrative on foreign policy, which is this. So here's a quick little Israeli war crimes 2018. Killing journalists, killing medics, journalists. Look at this. Killing disabled people.
I want to add to this, Jimmy, is according to the Geneva Convention, it's Article 24, medical personnel exclusively engaged in the search for or the collection, transport, or treatment of the wounded or sick, or in the prevention of disease, staff exclusively engaged in the administration of medical units and establishments shall be respected and protected in all circumstances.
Yeah, okay, that's... Again, that's for the losers of wars. They have to abide by the Geneva Convention. The winners don't have to abide by the Geneva Conventions. The losers do. So we're the winners, and we never have to abide by them. Right now, the United States is helping Saudi Arabia commit a war crime, commit siege warfare, which is a war crime in Yemen. So, of course, none of this stuff really gets reported in the United States like it should. And also, here's one more thing you should know. A new bill in the Israeli Knesset criminalizes journalists. This is what's happening. Remember this? Oh, Trump is the worst because he's coming after journalists. They still say that. Even after everybody knows that Barack Obama used the Espionage Act and look to silence whistleblowers. He did that. He did that to Chelsea Manning. They tortured Chelsea Manning. What did Chelsea Manning? Chelsea Manning is this generation's Daniel Ellsberg. With the Pentagon Papers. Look what they're doing to Edward Snowden. Look what they're trying to do to Julian Assange right now. Name one thing Julian Assange has ever printed that's false. So again, I hope all this, that's why this show exists, because the establishment news sucks so hard and won't ever tell you the truth about that. People pretending to care about human rights, people pretending to care about journalism. That's got to be 80% of hashtag the resistance.
Well, what does it say about the state of journalism? You know, getting into this conflict and other conflicts, what does it say about the state of journalism where not only the people are we not listening to, but the people we try to discredit first are the people who were actually there.
Yep.
The people that go into these zones, like the Eva Bartlett's,
Yes.
the Abby Martins, Juan Cole, the people that were actually
Robert Fisk.
there.
Robert Fisk. Award-winning journalists.
Yeah, those are the people that should have the biggest platforms because they were there.
Right. Well, you know, the people who should have the biggest platforms, maybe the people who got the Iraq war right, like Phil Donahue. Mm-hmm. Where is he? You think they would have him on every day. But what they do have on is the people who got the war wrong every day. How about that's everyone on TV? Because if you got the war right, you got fired. Jesse Ventura, fired. Phil Donahue, fired. You want to even cover a guy who's progressive, you're fired. Ed Schultz. Ashley Banfield, also. This is Amnesty International's Israeli plan to illegally demolish and forcibly transfer the Palestinian Bedouin village of Khan al-Hamar, east of Jerusalem, amounts to a war crime, says Amnesty International. I mean, how many more reports do we have to hear of people condemning what Israel's doing? And, you know, a lot of people say, hey, man, it's really complicated, and it depends on what time. It's not complicated when you're committing war crimes. That's not complicated. It's not complicated when the people are living in an open-air prison, when you live in an apartheid state. That's not complicated. It's not complicated when you're shooting journalists, when you're shooting nurses, medics. It's not complicated. When you're shooting unarmed protesters, it's not complicated. A lot of people like to apologize for Israel. And so, of course, and the MSNBC even let Chris Hayes tell the truth about Gaza for 3 minutes one time. That was like, hey, all right. You could keep your $30,000 a day and do 3 minutes on Gaza. So I wanted to report that story just because of what George Galloway said, that it's not being reported. Just look. What a beautiful humanitarian that was just killed in cold blood. Hands up, going over to give medical care to someone, and they shoot her right in the chest. You know, it's stories like this. And so we're doing it over there. We're allowing it to happen over there, and it's also happening here at home. So that's why cops get to kill people with impunity in the United States. So whatever we do to someone over there, as David Feldman has said, we're going to do to ourselves. And we're already doing it. And our news media is worthless. Worthless. So I wanted to... It's a sad, sad story. And I hate having to report. It's like most mornings I wake up, I don't even want to go on Twitter. Not because of the stupid things people say about me, but because of how horrible reality is. And how everyone's just sitting there and letting it happen. So there you go. Anything else? Yeah, of course, Steph, they don't have to... Israel's not following the Geneva Conventions. Of course not.
And these conventions were begun because especially this one, because the Nazis, they were saying, okay, the Nazis would do this type of behavior in Europe.
Yeah.
And so we don't want to do that behavior.
No, and now look what they're doing. It's not kind of ironic. But of course, they'll tell you Putin. You got to make sure Putin. But here is Trump sticking by Netanyahu, who's committing atrocities and war crimes left and right. But Putin, it almost makes me think their hatred of Putin is, I don't know, like a political game. It almost makes me think that. Hashtag the resistance. Head up their fucking ass. On purpose. You don't think Rachel Maddow knows better? They all know better. You think Lawrence O'Donnell knows better? You don't think Anderson Cooper, former CIA and a member of the Vanderbilt family. Boy, if there's anybody who's going to be a muckraker.
Well, that's why I would say the corporate media at this point, and especially when it comes to anything international, they're not just worthless, they're destructive.
They're destructive, of course. Well, they're owned by the people they're supposed to be exposing. And that's the problem. They're owned by the military-industrial complex. They're funded by fossil fuel companies. They're funded by banks. And those are the people they're supposed to be exposing. And how they're not. They're funded by them. I guess that's why we get to that's why the truth seems so obvious to us and we tell it so freely, because we don't get money from those people. We get money from you who can't stand that kind of news. That's why you come here. So, okay. So the silver lining, if there is one, or if you can make some lemonade out of this horrible, horrible situation, is that you can point to this when people think that the United States is out there doing humanitarian work. You can do that. You can point to this and say, if we really gave a shit about anybody, why wouldn't we be doing something? Because we don't. In fact, we do the exact opposite. We vote against protecting people. Our next live Jimmy Dore show is July 1st in Portland, Oregon, and July 15th in Chicago, Illinois. We're doing a live show July 15th in Chicago, Illinois. Go to a link right there for all the tickets to all the live Jimmy Dore shows. Plus, if you can help become a premium member, we give you hours of bonus material every week. Become a patron or a premium member. And if you're on Steam It, we're steaming it right now. Plus, every Saturday, we do a live Super Solid Chat Saturday where it's a live stream and you can ask us questions and we'll answer them back. Every Saturday, 2 p.m. Pacific time. Thanks for your support.